Hello, all. Welcome to the Sunday Club, and we're back on a very important subject. And I was not late, everyone else was. So, Advait, my namesake, be nice to me. We must support each other. Please turn off your cell phones, please. This is an important discussion. Thank you so much. Okay, so here we are. We're ready. Very important day today, Abhijit. We had America finally dive into the Iran-Israel war. So let's, and with the B2s, which have basically taken over the internet, everyone's really, really interested in them. So Abhijit, go ahead.
What specifically?
On the B2s, I want to know about the B2s.
Oh, okay. Well, they're 1980s technology. The first people to work on stealth were the Russians. And in fact, it was the Russians who came up with and they could only work on straight line stealth models. They came up with the equations. There's actually a 1973 paper by the Soviet engineer on the effect of radar on curved surfaces. The issue was that they didn't have uh, the uh, uh, the computer power to crunch the equations. Yes, I've told Advaita that B2 is not a vitamin.
See, that's
The
the problem.
stalker,
When you
the
don't
stalker is
invite
here.
Suhail na, for a show,
He's such a
this is the problem
stalker.
with Suhail. When you don't invite him for
But
a
he's
no, because if
accurate.
you don't call him or don't invite him, then he starts talking, and this is major
Because
FOMO with
why
him.
didn't you invite
Craving
him?
for attention all
I
the
want to hear
time.
him.
Listen, I told him, "Do you want to come?" And then he says, "I don't know enough on the subject." So I said, "If you're being so honest, then I appreciate it, and I will keep your image alive and not make a point about you coming."
Excellent. So let's
So
talk about the B2.
Yeah.
So what happened was the Russians actually published this, put this out openly in a journal. And the Americans looked at it and said, look, the Russians don't have these computers to crunch these numbers, but we do. Which is why you'll see the first American stealth was the F-117, which was all straight surfaces based on those Soviet equations. This next one was the B-2 bomber, which was based on all this curvature because their computers had cracked the equation. They had the computing power to crack the equations, and they produced this bomber. So it is actually very, very old technology. It is 40-year-old technology, which is 45-year-old technology that has been used, but still extraordinarily effective, right? The second technology that was used was the GBU 57 bunker buster. Now it's 13,500 pounds, which is, you divide by two, so about 7.2 tons. 6.7 tons. Yeah, 6.6 tons, something like that. And out of this, almost 8 to 9,000 pounds of this is just pure steel. And what it does is that it is the steel, it is shaped in a way where the sheer speed of it coming down goes right through concrete as a hot knife through butter, literally. And then it is the about a ton or so of explosive at the back, which then detonates whatever has been penetrated. Now, Fordow was buried so deep that if I've tweeted out those images, each chamber within Fordow required 3 hits. So it is clearly quite probably deeper than the 300 feet we've been told. But three very precise hits close to each other means each one gets through the cracks left by the other. Uh, we also know that there are two kinds of residue. I've just seen about an hour or so back, I've seen the 10 centimeter resolution images. There are two kinds of dust which are very worrying, or maybe it's one kind of dust with two hues. One is the gray. The gray we know is parts of the reinforced concrete that were pulverized. But the second, which is much more worrying, is the blue shade, because see, the blue shade should not be appearing on a satellite image. The blue shade is an indicator of radioactivity. Most probably in this case, uranium hexafluoride, UF6, which is radioactive. Is it dangerously radioactive? No, depends on if it is diluted or not. But there is clear radioactivity in that dust. Okay, whatever that chemical is mixed with the concrete, there is radioactivity out there. I'll be very interested to see what kind of a portrait the IAEA paints tomorrow. So that is the story so far. At Natanz, the entire complex has been wiped out, and it's the same at Isfahan.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Sohail has joined us in case you all have not noticed. Sohail, are you going to be with us through the show or do you want
How can you not
Yeah,
notice him, yeah?
I'm at Art Basel,
Now he'll show
which
off.
no, there's nothing to show off. It's not Basel. In case Pallavi thinks I'm talking about an herb, which people like her pronounce herb. So it's Art Basel, and I'm here observing and listening to one intelligent person who's spoken thus far, and it's neither of the women. And I think we are in terrible times. A war helps no one. And, I can understand the comparisons of America and, Israel and all of that. But my only question to Abhijit and to everyone else is no matter what you say, you might demolish their nuclear installations, you might do whatever. There will be some form of reprisal. I'm
Yes.
not saying they may go to war, but tomorrow you'll perhaps engender an army of young people who will want to avenge whatever. I mean, it's much like what will happen with those in Gaza. So my worry is how do these things get factored in by the global intelligentsia or the global community, and what are the dangers we are exposing ourselves to? Well, see, when whales fight, shrimps are eaten. You're
Yeah.
already seeing people talk about oil prices going up, which means inflation will go up, which means there'll be a lot of economic pressure. So I'm just saying, when a decision is taken to attack, you obviously, factor in reprisal, revenge, avenge. How do countries then, settle for this, and how do countries strategically plan for this?
There's no way you can plan for this because Iran is going to double down now on terrorism if it doesn't get regime changed. Their ballistic missile stocks are finished. Their nuclear program is finished. Terrorism really is the only option that they have. I don't see a reforming of behavior. I actually see a worsening of the terror supporting behavior with what little they have. And the problem will be, see, they may lay low for a year, 2 years, or whatever. But what if they start slant drilling at Forda or Natanz and places like that, away from the cameras, away from the satellite cameras, reach the fissile material and decide to make a nuke and, just gift it to Hezbollah or Hamas or something like that.
Exactly.
Right. And the Israelis and Americans are very confident about this mowing the grass, as they say. We've demolished the main threat. Anytime we see them go in there, we'll just drop a bomb. So it'll be a much easier operation the second time round. I'm not convinced about that. The kind of constant intelligence you will require, uh, they will lose interest after,
All good.
maybe 5, 6, 7 years. And I think that is when the Iranians will go get. This isn't the end of the story yet. Like, the saying about opera goes, it ain't over till the fat lady sings. In this particular case, the fat lady is a nuclear bomb. So it ain't over till the fat lady blows up.
Jaipur Dialogues shared a video, Abhijit, which looked like a mushroom cloud, kind of like Sohail's hairdo.
I told them that is not that.
That
That is
doesn't
an
seem
AI.
real, right? Yeah, that's
It
what I
wasn't AI. I think it was
thought.
something in China, some other thing, some chemical explosion or something. Yeah, no.
Hmm, hmm. Sandeep wanted me to ask him two questions. So here's the first one. Sandeep,
No, I
what
wanted to
is.
just be focused. You can ask me anything, but I
Oh,
just
okay.
didn't want to go all over the place. But
All right.
in the context of what Abhijit and Suhail said, I tweeted about it in 2007. I happened to attend a lecture by John Nash, the doyen of game theory, who was brought to India by the MEA. MEA has a public diplomacy thing, and he, in the context of 9/11, had said terrorism or anti counter-terror attacks can be actually a zero-sum game, because whatever you do, you raise the ante, and the other guys catch up sooner or later and hits back. And so that is what I think Suhail was alluding to, and Abhijit also. You think by
But
raising
Sandip, just tell Advaita who John Nash is.
He already has.
Oh God.
Okay.
okay.
Hmm.
So he was explaining, I that was very, uh, I remember that very distinctly. And one didn't understand it so much then, but I think I understand the entire logic. You just can't get away with terrorism or something just by dropping a few bombs and carpeting a civilization. Then, as Abhijit says, their only way to retaliate is in this kind of it's a hydra-headed monster. You can cut off the main head, but then there are so many of them will reappear, and that's the biggest issue. And to answer another question of Suhail, I think that's the worry. Whatever America's policies have been since the new Trump administration has come into power, is that they're least worried about the consequences on the rest of the world, be it on the whole tariff issues, how it was setting the entire economic order in a doldrum. And now, as you were saying, because of this, if the oil economy all get affected, how it is going to, Iran may be demolished, but the rest of the world, the economy, which was already none of the countries were in great shape, you're going to now set back the world economy by several years, worse than perhaps what had happened during COVID.
Quick thing, and anyone can answer this. I'm putting it to Sandeep because he raised this. During Operation Sindoor, we upped the ante, didn't we? We said that now onwards, if there's any terror attack, then we're going to go out and get them. And if it's Pakistan sponsored, which it usually is, almost always, then we're going to go and get them on Pakistani soil. So we've done that ourselves. So can we then say that, oh, the Americans or the Israelis doing this with Iran is out of context?
I'll
I
tell you
don't think.
why. It's an illogical question. I'll tell you why. Iran is being accused of misleading the world on its enrichment program. They've told the world, apparently, that their uranium enrichment is for energy and civilian purposes. America, who has no bloody reason to worry about, has gussoed into this as they always gusso. Israel has a right because Israel could be threatened by any attacks, blah, blah, blah. How the hell does America get into it? Now, please read today's New York Times. There are two amazing articles. One which talks about regime change and how the Shah of Iran's son, who's now 78 years old, has no chance in hell to
He
come
does.
back. So, and what people in Iran are now saying is that our enemy number one is Israel. So, if we don't have a regime change, we are fine, but we will not have a regime change with a person who's pro Israel or pro America. So, that's the level of feeling within the people of Iran. A. B. You have to understand the logic. The United States wants to be the big brother. There are three people who are in the business of creating the legacy: Khamenei, Netanyahu, and Trump. And all three. Now, is there a reason for Tulsi Gabbard, who was fated both in India and in the US, to be absent in the Situation Room? And you saw what Trump said. He says, I
Yeah,
don't care what she says. That was his
yeah.
phrase. So, when we criticized George W. Bush and when Colin Powell then went public later, that there were no weapons of mass destruction, but weapons of mass distraction. How different is it now? A. B. The IEAE, and Abhijit will correct me if I'm wrong, has not till now said that they have a 100% report that this is enrichment for weaponization. Number
Correct.
three, what they say is that when you hit 5%, 10%, they're saying, oh, Iran has hit 60%, therefore it's weaponization. But again, Advaita, it's all in hearsay. I mean, not hearsay, but it's all in the domain of conjecturing. So what will happen is, I'll tell you what will happen. you have willy-nilly, you means we as a world have willy-nilly now allowed America the superpower right, or unjustified right to get into any country and attack them. And their justification will be, oh, it threatens global peace. By that logic, why the hell did they not attack Pakistan? You tell me. If Pakistan is using nuclear weaponization as a deterrent in order to foist terrorism and foster terrorism, because they know there's only this much and no more that India or any other country can do, given their nuclear weaponization, by that logic, America should have first slammed Pakistan,
So,
but they
Suhail, that's
haven't.
the old
Uh,
American theory of, it's fine as
They
if
are a convenient, that's a bloody
yeah.
convenient nation. They are rascals of the first order. They are
So
absolute scoundrels.
in
Americans don't trust. America works for America, as they should. The world
but
begins to believe, oh, they are the global policemen.
there's a legal
so
issue there. See, the thing is, uh, Iran signed the NPT. Pakistan never
Correct?
signed the NPT. So this
So,
is
therefore,
why
Abhijit, it's even worse. If they haven't
Yeah.
signed the nuclear proliferation treaty, then Pakistan is even more dangerous because they have
I
no
agree.
rules to live by.
But
They have
legally
no
you can't.
commitment to stand for.
True, but legally you can't enforce
By
it on
that
Israel,
logic,
India, and Pakistan.
Pakistan should have
Okay,
been the
everyone.
first to get screwed by America because they've
Logic, but
neither
not
have they
law.
signed an
Logic.
NPT,
The
nor
law
have they.
doesn't follow logic.
Huh?
The law doesn't follow logic.
No,
Israel,
But
India, and
my point
Pakistan
is,
cannot.
No, but
therein
he's
lies
right.
the
Sohail is
duplicity.
right. Yeah, yeah,
Therein lies
yeah.
the
I agree.
duplicity of the United.
so it,
No, of the global
it
community.
so it's the
Therein
old
lies the.
Let's
theory
no.
which
So hey,
someone said.
let's be a little more specific. It isn't the global community. What is really coming to light now is the Western global community, the
No,
West,
I'm sorry.
which
1 minute.
is
1 minute.
determining.
The
No.
Qataris,
It is.
hear me out. Hear me out. The Qataris have
Huh.
not issued a statement. KS Tama has issued a statement in favor of the attack. Macron
Yeah.
has not said a thing, but he will also toe the line.
He said that
Okay,
he's going to
you.
join them. He's
Yeah.
already said that.
One second. Yeah.
So there you
Macron
are.
has.
See, global
Right.
community, you have to worry about. Plus, the last thing I want to say before I leave, everyone quotes the United Nations. They use it as a convenient lamppost. You either piss standing by it, or you use it for illumination. You tell me, if the United Nations, if Iran is a signatory to the UN Charter, then what America has done with Iran, when they're not even an involved party, is completely violative of
It
Iran's
is.
of the Charter of Human Rights, the Charter of the United Nations. Who's going to take action? That bloody idiot, the United Nations Secretary General, sends a message saying, gravely concerned. Are what do you mean gravely concerned? And let me tell you, nothing will happen there also. United Nations is a moribund organization. So basically, we're all screwed. I think we just have to hope for the best and hope some sanity comes to the world. But I will only tell you one thing. If you treat people and you wipe countries out, the remnants of those countries will rise to wage war against the world. That is what you need to worry about. My worry is it is not going to end here. And forget the economic pain that we can surmount. It is the social and cultural pain that you will have to withstand for centuries. And are you willing to do that? Are we ready to do that? And do we have the wherewithal to do that? On that note, I'm very pleased and I'm extremely sorry that I have to leave. But God
We're
bless you and
relieved.
may
We are
God
not
continue to
sorry.
bless India.
We
We're
are not
relieved.
sorry
Okay.
at all, Sohail. Have a nice time.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
Advaita,
We're
it's
enjoying
the
so much. Okay,
Pakistan
Sandeep has
thing.
to come back because Sandeep was cut off.
No,
Yeah,
no,
Sandeep.
I'm just basically saying the Pakistan thing is easy to understand. It's debatable who said this, that somebody had said that, it's fine if someone is a bastard, but as long as he's our bastard.
My bastard. Yes,
So,
absolutely.
so that's the theory which has worked for them. But I'll tell you from the other side why I don't think that our attacking Pakistan and US attacking Iran is the same thing, is because our case was literally pointed at 3 or 4 sites which were targeted for the terrorist sites, etc. We didn't want to demolish the country or raise the country to the ground. We didn't even wage war. Now here, people are very clear to say that although America has also said something, we didn't target the people, we didn't target the army, we've only targeted the establishments. But it is nothing short of, waging war out there. And we did that action in brief and came out and over there in a manner which is precise and limited engagement. Here it is
Okay.
also clear that the US has been totally, hand in glove with Israel all through in this entire Gaza and everywhere else. And here also, Trump has thanked Netanyahu almost like allied, saying that he has done a great job. So he did a lot of the preparatory work for US to finally go and do the last rites. So to speak.
Yep. Yep. Okay, AIM, there's a call. We have a super chat. Thank you so much, Kshitij, again. He wants to know about the Strait of Hormuz closed. Is it closed? Is it going to
No,
be
it isn't.
closed? Because the Iranians have been
Parliamentary
threatening that.
Security Committee the Parliamentary Security Committee has passed a resolution calling for its closure. Now, look, if they wanted to close it, they would have closed it long back. What are they going to close it with? The moment they close it, they know all their defensive weaponry in that area is going to get taken out. Can you bring up the question again? There was a part 2.
That was more of like a comment.
No, I think it was something about Mossadegh and the seminary opposing him. Yes, we know that. The thing was, Mossadegh was a socialist. This the mullahs were completely against any and all kinds of socialism at that point. They wanted him removed. Of course, they completely supported him after he was removed. Because
Yes.
very bad. You removed Mossadegh. Everything was because of us. Nobody wants to talk about all the prime ministers that Ayatollah Khomeini himself could and removed, who then his own prime ministers, who then had to go into exile and live in France.
Yes.
Right?
And try and organize a rally in favor of Mossadegh in Iran and see what the mullahs do to you.
Exactly.
All
Exactly.
Mossadegh's party men have been marginalized and kept under house arrest.
Not only that, when Ayatollah Kholkholi, his full name was something else. Kholkholi means the mad mullah, but his name rhymed with it. His daughter is now a raging lesbian in the West. But when Ayatollah Kholkholi, who was the chief prosecutor of Tehran, was alive, most of the people he had executed were in fact Mossadegh's followers and things like that. They were the left-wingers, overwhelmingly concentrated in Mashhad.
Okay,
come in
quickly, we have over 700. Yeah, Professor, I'll just come to you. We have over 700 viewers right now. Please do like, share, subscribe. I always forget to say that. But
I've
go ahead
got
and do that.
somebody who's come here. I'm just going to be back in like 2 minutes, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
I mean,
All right, Professor.
There's a hypocrisy in all of this, which I have to comment on. In 1981, when the Israelis bombed the Iraqi nuclear reactor, everybody from the Soviet Union to the United States condemned it. Later on, they discovered what a good thing it was. Right now, if the Arab states are not complaining about Iran bombing, Israel bombing nuclear reactors in Iran, it means that they do not want Iran to be a nuclear power, number one. Number two, this is something India also does not want. Why did we vote for sanctions against Iran in the United Nations during Manmohan's time? Because as Manmohan Singh clearly stated, that Iran with nuclear arms is not in our interest. Now, what has Iran done? Iran basically approaches the limits very closely, trying not to, violate these particular laws. Sometimes it violates these laws. It's coming very, very close. Secondly, it has always proclaimed that it wants to destroy Israel. Now, given the fact that Israel faces an existential threat against a power that wants to become nuclear, it did what it did. Number two, for a long time, Iran, like Pakistan, was playing an asymmetric game where the consequences of their deeds were felt by the enemies through their proxies, but they themselves were never hurt. The regime was never hurt. The first time the regime got hurt when Qasem Soleimani ventured into Iraq and Donald Trump took it out. This is the first time where the regime has taken a shot. Top generals of the regime has taken a shot and they are shaken. Is this regime in danger of collapsing? The answer is no. And see, and this is the reason I think they will not do anything stupid. There was this particular question about closing the Strait of Hormuz. This is the resolution by the Iraqi parliament where they've asked the leadership, the clerical leadership, to take a decision. If they close the Straits of Hormuz, then they start involving and hurting other people who are not party to this particular conflict. And if they do so and oil prices rise, the Americans will bomb the life out of them. The Iranian navy will not be able to match anything that the Americans or the Israelis have. So there will be a lot of song and dance. What has to be given is a ramp off to the Iranians. Look, this is the way of getting out. And I think if that happens, this conflict can be brought to a close. After all, the Americans say whatever needed to be done has to be done. So the Americans and the Israelis at this point in time have no interest in prolonging the conflict. Iran, the clerical regime, of course, has had a loss of face. They may want to do stupid things, but it is in their interest not to do it. And I believe we will see this
They've
conflict
clearly said
subsiding.
this is not, there is no time for diplomacy. I must mention Prime Minister Modi's intervention at this time,
Yes.
wherein he's basically spoken with the president of Iran
Yeah.
and made
Necessity
a
answer.
point about
By
it.
the way, Iran is
So
India
this
is one
brings
of
me
the
to
few
Pallavi.
countries.
Professor, let me come
India
to
is one of
Pallavi.
once again. India is one of the few countries who can talk to both parties.
Correct. Pallavi, let me come to you. Pallavi, speaking of India's role in this, Sonia Gandhi, I hope she's doing well. She's out of the hospital, I assume. I just recall that she was in
Yeah, yeah.
hospital. Okay. So she
No, no,
wrote,
she's out. She's discharged.
she wrote an op-ed, basically elaborating on India's relationship with Iran, and that has been, of course, received in the various ways. You cover the Congress. What was the motivation behind it? What is the Congress trying to say? Pallavi?
See, I just want to add one line to the Strait of Hormuz because I've been speaking to the oil minister. First of all, why is India very confident that the Strait of Hormuz may not be shut? It has never ever been. It's going to hurt Iran's enemies more than it's actually going to hurt us. So immediately, it is not something which we are really worried about because I think India was aware of this possibility of America stepping in. So that intelligence we had. So we were already making those backroom things. Now let's come back to what you were asking me. I wrote an article on this, and there are two things which stand out. One, of course, is the Congress party stand on the Gaza issue. I mean, we all saw how Priyanka Gandhi Vadra carried that bag to Parliament, and also on Iran. Now, look at Sonia Gandhi's article. It works like this: the Congress comes out with statements. Priyanka Vadra says something, and the ultimate weapon is always going to be Sonia Gandhi because she comes in as a position of a former UPA chairperson, the parliamentary party leader. So she is basically setting the stage for the Congress's politics. And over here, I mean, I did a show yesterday where I was constantly criticized by the Congress spokesperson that you don't care about the people who've died in Gaza. So when I asked her that what about those who also died in Israel? I mean, there are hospitals which have also been bombed in Israel. So if one hospital in Iran is being bombed is bad, then what about Israel? And why is it that the Congress party is not condemning that? Why is the Congress focusing on Iran and Gaza? Look, how I'm looking at it is that there are around 20 to 26% of the Muslim population in India. Immediately the Bihar elections comes up, 17% Muslim. Congress has been losing out on what was once their very powerful, strong vote bank, which is the minority vote bank, because there have been others coming up like the TMC and RJD and the Samajwadi Party. Second, the minorities also feel that we cannot trust the Congress because sometimes they're going on a Hindutva agenda, sometimes they're against minorities. So when we have an alternative, why should we look at them? It's Rahul Gandhi's maths, Muslims plus Dalits. That's the way the Congress party can come back to power eventually. And I think very briefly, this is how it sums up why the Congress is focusing on Iran and Gaza, the Shias, the Muslim population, even on Operation Sindhu. They have been very nuanced. See, they are in a catch-22 situation. They cannot question the operation. They cannot sound as, supporting Pakistan. But, raising question mark about why the name Sindoor, where are the terrorists, why don't we have proof? It all tries to send out those hidden signals to the minority population that a Congress perhaps is, like concerned about your concerns. And therefore, it's hoping that it comes back. I think that captures Sonia Gandhi's article.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. Yeah, interesting. That really brings us to sort of. I want to ask Sandeep this. Sandeep, Pakistan is kind of played slime ball, right? Again with Iran. So what are we talking about?
Pakistan, I think, is caught between a rock and a hard place because, on one hand, it has to suck up to the US. So it thinks it has done its job by, uh, you know, nominating Trump for the Nobel Prize, and they've earned their brownies there. But at the same time, they can't afford, for a variety of reasons, to really irk Iran. And but Pakistan is who takes them seriously. They know that they are a shuttlecock. They will also, just go next. Trump gives them another smack and says something. They'll say, no, 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 we didn't mean that. We meant this. So I think Pakistan is irrelevant. I think in terms of the entire equation, what we have to see is the rest of the Islamic world, how they react or not. And although Turkey is part of NATO, in terms of the rise of the Islamic forces, I would watch out for Turkey as well going forward.
AI, what role is Turkey playing? Because you have the Iranian foreign minister in Turkey right now. Then he's going to go to Russia. Uh, role is Turkey playing? Next is why are China and Russia relatively quiet? These two things are
You're
keeping people.
echoing massively, Advaita.
I don't know why.
Okay, so first let's talk about Russia and China. And what's happening out there is, yeah, somebody's okay. No, Sandeep, could you mute yourself, please? Is this better? Yeah, okay, not echoing anymore. So what's been happening is that Russia is looking very, very bad at the moment. They first left Armenia high and dry. Then they left Syria high and dry. Now they've left Iran high and dry, and this is an Iran that came to their help, giving them the Shahed drones and things like that. They developed and gave them the technology during the war, supplied them massively with those drones, gave them transfer of technology, very useful in Ukraine. Uh, I would say turned the tide to some extent. What has Russia been able to do for Iran now? So Russia is not looking good in this. Russian weapons are not looking good in this. Remember, Iran has the S-300, which is the precursor of the S-400. It didn't work, did it? Their Tor missile systems. We've seen all kinds of Russian air defenses being blown up, not being able to do a thing, not even being able to detect. Forget the stealth. They're not even able to detect non-stealth things. They're not even able to detect drones, which Israelis don't have jet drones, which are buried deep inside the drone, so you can't. So they're shielded. Israeli drones are propeller drones, which are big fat propeller at the back, which is the biggest emitter of radar signals. Uh, they're not able to do anything about it. So neither are Russian weapons, nor is Russian friendship looking very good in this. The second is China. Think of yourself being in Xi's position and thinking what he is when he looks at Taiwan, what he thinks at the moment. Taiwan maybe isn't as good as Israel, but it's not far behind. It's extremely well equipped, it's extremely well motivated. And they've got the benefit of the Taiwan Straits in between, which, any water crossing is an absolutely formidable this thing. It is much wider than the English Channel was during World War II. So, not looking good sitting there. The Chinese will also be thinking that if the West was able to take out, now we're not talking about a third world country like Pakistan with F-16s, we're talking about a first world country. Uh, And remember, Taiwan has extremely high per capita income, extremely high human development. They use weapons very, very differently from Pakistan. So these guys are not looking very good at the moment. What was the first question, Advaita? I can't hear you. You're muted.
The first question was about Russia and China, and we also have a
No,
super
that was
chat
the second
from
question.
Ashwin, where he's saying that what we saw in recent times, Russia versus Ukraine, Iran versus Israel, dragged more than anticipated. What different tactics did we do with Pakistan?
No, it wasn't tactics. We had limited objectives. We stick to those limited objectives. Russia was a full blown, we still don't know what the Russian war objectives are. Do they want to
Hmm.
take the whole of Ukraine? Do they want to take just West Bank Ukraine or East Bank Ukraine? What? Sorry, East Bank Ukraine. We don't know. And look, one thing that's very conclusively proven right now is the Russians aren't even able to hold their own against a country like Ukraine, which is being supplied with old, obsolete, surplus stock from NATO. There are very few weapons that Ukraine is getting that is state of the art. Israel has managed to do in Iran what in 10 days, what Russia has not managed in Ukraine in 3.5 years. Also, remember, Operation Sindoor was quite spectacular. The first day, we got all the targets we wanted. We met our war goals. We told the Pakistanis, we've not hit any government targets. We've only hit these sub-state actors. You can take the win and walk away and claim these are terrorists. They chose not to. By the ninth night, we had essentially immobilized their air force in a different way from the Israelis. The Israelis bomb planes. We prefer to bomb pilots, the command centers, and runways, which is actually, I think, much more effective because a plane can be replaced in a year. A pilot takes 10, 15 years to replace. So very good. We've dealt with the situation very differently. But had this war continued between India and Pakistan, you would
Hmm.
have seen very similar results. Uh, and I honestly, I was very, very surprised with the kind of India capabilities India displayed in this particular war.
Okay. Once again, over 900 people live with us. Do like, share, subscribe. AIM, I want to come back to you very quickly, challenge you on that. We don't really know exactly the kind of damage Iran has inflicted on Israel because Israel has censorship, wartime censorship. So you don't get too much information out of there.
You
What
do.
kind of
No,
impact
no,
has
no, no.
Iran had on Israel?
You actually get very good information from Israel. You're not allowed to show the exact spot where the missile landed, but you can show
Hmm.
the hit. You can generally show the area. There is very good coverage coming of the devastation wreaked even this morning. And for the last 6, 7 days at least, we've been getting extremely good coverage of the damage. Now, understand that damage hasn't been to military targets, it's all been to civilian targets because I presume the military targets are much, much better protected. So, even the one that the Iranians first claim hit Kiryat, which is the Israel military headquarters, I've been both to the building and the building next to it. Uh, when I saw the images, I could tell you that it was the building next to it. It's called the Da Vinci apartment complex that actually got hit, and not Kiria, which got hit, which had the iron domes there, which were going and doing the intercepting. That was around 200-300 meters from the Kiria, right? So we actually know very well. And please remember, I don't go by OSINT. I go by satellite imagery. I always confirm everything with satellite imagery. And the satellite imagery is very clear. We've been looking at Israeli air bases. We've been looking at whatever we know of Israeli military infrastructure, and I can tell you Kiria was not hit. Sure, a few glasses were damaged. I'm sure somebody's eardrums blew up inside Kiria and things like that, but that's about it. The other thing has been, with the Israelis are now desperately short of long range interceptors. Remember, the Iron Dome was designed for Hezbollah short range subsonic rockets and things like that. Hezbollah and Hamas rockets. They were not designed to intercept ballistic missiles flying at hypersonic speed, Mach 7.5 or more. So it is the high altitude interceptors they have run out for. If you notice, about 2 3 days back, I posted the graph on how the size of the barrage of missiles coming in from Iran has dropped drastically. But the numbers that are getting through are very high. So the interception rate is now actually down to about 60, maybe even 50%.
So the
Today,
Iranians are saying,
one second, let me finish. Today in Haifa, a ballistic missile came. The alarm didn't even go off. There is some malfunction happening out there, which is why, to compensate for that, what the Israelis are doing is they're going on hunting missions inside Iran. The moment a launcher comes out to fire the missile, they go hit it. Now, you can succeed many times. There will always be about 10, 15 missiles that get away.
what the Iranians are saying is essentially that, look, there are two things. One is the Americans have come in now because the Israelis are not able to go at it alone. So it's sort of a rescue mission. Second thing that they're saying that Israeli warheads are a lot smaller than Iranian warheads. So our payload is a lot bigger and hence more destructive than what they're sending our way. How much of this is propaganda? How much of it is truth?
Look, it's destructive, but it's destructive to civilians. See, I may have a very big bomb, but if I drop it in the middle of the Thar desert, nobody's really going to get killed except the Thar Hubara, and the Thar gazelles and some camels. On the other hand, even if I have a very small briefcase bomb and I explode it in Delhi metro station, a lot of people are going to get killed. Right? The problem is Iran has huge warheads, but they're landing in places that are militarily irrelevant. On the other hand, Israel has tiny warheads. You know, the drones, they carry warheads of like 1 or 2 kilos. But they hit the missile that is being launched, and it is more than enough to ignite the entire rocket fuel and destroy that this thing. There is a complete asymmetry of power out here. The Iranians are trying to make the best of what they have. Unfortunately, it's not doing much.
Okay. Again, please like, share, subscribe. Professor, I want to get to you. Every time the US has done this kind of intervention, I want to make it clear here that unlike the Israelis, the Americans are not saying this is a regime change operation. But every time the Americans have intervened in recent history, we've ended up with the Taliban being back in Afghanistan. Iraq is chaotic. Syria has a guy who was first Al Qaeda, then ISIS, now in charge of everything. So their operations of regime change have not been successful. In fact, they've been disastrous. And here we are at it again. We find ourselves at the same point in history. Professor, unmute yourself, please.
Safely rule out a regime change, that cannot happen. In Iran, the only people with guns, wherewithal to basically inflict violence, is the regime itself. It's a close-knit thing with a pretty large popular base. I won't say the majority are the voters of this particular regime, but the believers are large in number. They are willing to kill and they're willing to die. And the opposition does not have the wherewithal to do anything about the regime, even though the regime may have lost face. That's not going to happen. In Libya, in Iran, in Iraq, in Syria, the regime actually had become an upper crust which held the population in fear by sheer torture and violence. Torture and violence are also the tools of the clerical regime in Iran. But let us face, about 40 to 30% of the people do believe in this particular regime, and they would support any amount of violence against anybody who tries to change this particular regime. So the Americans know that the outcome of their bombing cannot be regime change. That's not going to happen. But I think what is also important is, for the first time, the Iranian regime has come to realize that the members of the regime can also be hit badly. They can also die. So far, as I said, this was asymmetric. they basically supported a few proxies. Those proxies hurt whoever they wanted to be hurt, and nothing would come back to Iran in form of a blowback. The first
Hmm.
time it was Qasem Soleimani. Now the entire military leadership has been taken out. So what the Israelis have made it very clear to the Iranians that we can take you out at a time and place of our choosing. And if the Israelis can do so, the Americans can easily do so. The Americans
Okay,
will be shocked and awe. They will do it indiscriminately. It will not be surgical
that's
thrust
fine.
to the Iranian.
Professor, that's fine. They could very well do it. But the issue is, Sandeep, that every time they do try these things, they leave behind a mess. They've done it in multiple countries. They're fixing to do it again over here. So what's the point of this? And also, my second question to you is, Iran will have to respond. There is no exit ramp here. What is the probability of a response that directly targets the Americans? Maybe they won't be bombing LA or New York, but what about Iran? Americans have a strong presence there, or its bases across the GCC. Do you think Iran might take that on?
See, to answer your first question, if you see today the map of Central Asia or Middle East over there, uh, all countries have been affected. So if you see Iraq, Afghanistan, I'm not even going this side. So now Iran has come in. So all these countries are affected. Only person who's not directly affected is Turkey out there. So you have now created a very unstable situation. I think that's the bigger worry for everyone. And as you said, America's track record of going into these places, they leave it in a mess and leave it for a long, long time, and they create further mess in trying to solve the problem. And it's been irrespective. It's been administration agnostic. It's happened in the Democrats' time. It has happened in the Republicans' time. Everybody has created. So Iraq was done in the old, Republican regime, and then Afghanistan is a mix of both. So that has happened. So I think that is a big issue. And today, Russia, China, all of them sort of keeping studied silence is, I think, to some extent ominous of what's happening there. And I said that although Abhijit and Doctor are much more knowledgeable in this, although Turkey is a member of NATO, ultimately the Islamic credentials and the pressure and Erdogan's those he would like to also emerge to some extent as the new champion of the Islamic world. So all that puts, I think, a huge. Now, in terms of Iraq's response, again, I say it in my very common sense approach. I don't think it's going to be immediately a strong military response against America, because they may not be having that wherewithal to strike and do serious damage, and what they will invite in terms of retaliation. So they will try to do things like what we are saying. It could be some insidious terrorist attack, trying to close certain trade routes, etc. All of it together. I would think they will bide their time, but do something of that nature, or try to hit soft targets, as you mentioned. Their
The
target would be more Israel than
Shia,
US.
like you have the Houthis who've kind of come out in full support. You have the Shia militants also. Let's not forget a restive Shia population in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which is also there. So there is a potential that these particular things, maybe not a full-fledged attack, but definitely something that targets embassies, bases, American holdings in this particular region.
In this region or elsewhere as well. So I think that's where India navigating is important. There are people, who fish in troubled waters. People are already talking about how the American planes might have flown across Indian airspace, and therefore saying India was complicit in the whole matter. People will try to grab in our own critics, always take by default an anti-government position, and even people like who are in the middle, like Kapil Sibal and everybody, is saying, "Oh, India must condemn this thing," and everybody is going to put pressure. I think our Prime Minister, as you said, has made a very, very balanced and diplomatic statement. And we have to, this is also a test for Indian diplomacy because both Iran and Israel are our friends. In Iran, we have got stakes, very strong stakes in Iran, economic stakes as well as assets there. Israel, of course, has been our ally in terms of all defense initiative. So we are in a very delicate spot, and I think this will be a great challenge for Mr. Modi and Jaishankar to navigate through these troubled times. And then you have the US trying to bully. Today, I didn't understand why suddenly this US advisory about India being an
Yeah.
unsafe place to travel. I don't know what's the message they're trying to send us.
Yeah. AIM, the US India relationship has never felt shakier than it does right now because, and in typical Trump fashion, it's all in your face. There's a complete lack of nuance or subtlety. So he's having lunch with Munir. Prime Minister says, I have other engagements. I can't be there. And thank God the Prime Minister said that because Trump would have arranged a photo op in the Rose Garden with Munir and Prime Minister Modi shaking hands. That was, I think, his plan. And then sent that photograph to the Nobel Peace Committee and said, look what I've done. So I think Prime Minister got out of that one very smoothly.
But I love that
there's certain
statement of
animals, though.
the Prime Minister saying I had to come back because I had to. Lord Jagannath ने मुझे बुलाया था, महाप्रभु ने बुलाया था, इसलिए I came back. That was a real.
Doesn't Trump also have a Jagannath connect? He also has one. Yes, he does. There was something that happened in his life, and there were some prayers that were conducted. It's like the 80s, like late 80s. But anyway,
I don't know about that.
What's happening with the Americans? Like, in fact, I shouldn't even say Americans. What's happening with Trump? Like, what's his problem now?
So this is apparently the crypto bros working. So, in India, it's the average middle class family that does crypto trying to get some money because you can trade it using your phone and things like that. And lots of our crypto uncles and crypto aunties lost a lot of money. In Pakistan, it's very different. It's the elite families doing crypto. So they've set up all these crypto shells and things like that. And with Trump's focus on crypto, they've gotten to him. Now, between money and adulation, what do you think Trump likes more?
Money?
Money or adulation? Adulation. And this is where we will wait. Remember, he tried this stunt the last time as well. He wanted to mediate in his last term. He tried to mediate between India and Pakistan. We said no. He came over. We completely swamped him with the adulation and public adulation and things like that. And he was perfectly fine after that. Same thing. He needed Asim Munir for the hit on Iran. He's now gotten what he wants. Remember, Asim Munir met this fellow before the strike, not after the strike. Okay. So there is the crypto bro angle and there is the Iran angle. Now, the Iran angle, let's see how it plays out. The crypto bro angle, I'm very confident that our folks in the PMO know exactly how to deal with it. The good thing is, of course, Trump can't go to Pakistan, certainly not in a public event, because the way at which bombs go out, no security service personnel will ever okay the trip to Pakistan. They will all happily okay the trip to India with some extra security. We will hold a public reception for him a la Eisenhower at the Red Fort, get 1 million people, and that's it.
Yeah, no jets from us. No big Boeings and things like that from us. No
He has
gifts.
the memory of a fish. He has the memory of a fish, so it'll last for about 6 months. But after that, we'll call him back again and do another event, maybe at the
Other Republic Day or something.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's kind of amusing. But where has Pakistan landed themselves, right? Because they started off by saying, very bad boy, Israel, you attacked Iran. And then the next, they're totally hand in glove. Now, if you're Pakistan, you're surrounded by this will of course go away at some point, but Pakistan is going to be left with Afghanistan on one end, Iran on the other side, and we on this side. What's going to happen with them? If you had a crystal ball, Abhijit?
They'll carry on. They'll carry on.
think is going through the Iranian mind when they see Asim Munir in Washington 2 3 days before they were hit?
Yeah.
Now, notice Pezeshkian, the Iranian president, called up Modi and
Mm-hmm.
thanked him for India's position, even though India has refused to condemn anything.
Hmm.
The Pakistanis openly condemned the Israeli strikes and American strikes,
Yeah.
but Pezeshkian hasn't called up Asim Munir or Shehbaz Sharif. What does that tell you? Right? India, even in silence, is trusted more by the Iranians than Pakistan in vocal condemnation.
Yeah.
So let's wait and watch. And let's also not forget, just last year, Pakistan and Iran traded ballistic missile strikes and drone strikes on each other.
Correct. Correct.
Why does everybody forget about this? They're Shia and Sunni, they hate each other. The Shia are horribly persecuted in Pakistan, the Sunnis are horribly persecuted in Iran. This is not something that's going to go away anytime soon.
Hmm.
But Trump is welcome to try. Uh, you know, I'm very convinced our Babus, for all the criticism that they get, at least this PMO, it knows exactly how to deal with Trump. We've seen that in Trump 1. We'll
Hmm.
see it. It'll take a few months. We don't do anything quickly. Imagine the egg on Pakistan's face. They nominated Trump for a Nobel Prize. Then he
Hmm.
goes and hits Iran. Right? What do you think people are thinking about Pakistan right now?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
can I
You
come
know,
in on this? No,
Professor, I want to ask you. I want. Professor is always in such a hurry to get in. I've forgotten my question, and it was a very important question, Professor.
So let
But
me
you have to
answer. Let me
continue.
at least come in on this. Look, it does not matter to Pakistan what position it's in. Paki- Pakistan knows that the world judges it by a very low standard. The largest single massacre of Palestinians in the history of Palestine was carried out by a Pakistani General Ziaul Haq. Does it matter? It does not matter. It carried out a genocide in Bangladesh. Did it stick? It did not. You see, when you have a particular country which does the dirty work of all superpowers, past and present, then people know you by what you are, and therefore the things you do, the antics that the people don't judge you by that, and the Pakistani know it. Public memory is short, and the fact that the Pakistanis nominated him for a Nobel Prize will be forgotten day after tomorrow. Let's face it. So it doesn't really matter to Pakistan what Pakistanis think about them.
Okay.
They keep on saying we had a past. They also have a present, they have a future. It is in doing
All right.
exactly what they were doing.
Okay, now here was the masala question that I wanted to
Yeah.
ask. India issued a statement when Prime Minister came back saying that the Prime Minister spoke to Donald Trump and said that, we did not have any kind of intervention, negotiation, etc., as claimed. Put it in discrete terms, but the message was clear. Subsequently, this travel advisory comes out, which seems like a little bit of a indirect hit
No,
again, saying suddenly don't travel to India, this and that, out of nowhere. I mean, we had a terror attack. If it had come out at that time, it kind of
I'm
makes
reluctant
sense.
to read too much into these things. You have
Then why do you think that very strongly worded thing has come through about terror, about rape, about all of that? Why has that come at this point?
I'm reluctant to read more into these advisories than should be read. The West comes up with these advisories from time to time. Sometimes even when our relations with a particular European country is good or bad, they have these particular advisories. Could it be out of pique? It could be. Okay, this is Donald Trump. In any case, if you look at our international arrivals when it comes to tourism, we don't receive the kind of arrivals like France does anyway. So we shouldn't be bothered about it. An American who wants to visit India will visit India regardless of the advisory.
No, that I understand, Abhijit and Sandeep, that I understand. But Trump has a very fragile ego. The fact that an official statement was made by a high ranking official in our foreign ministry would not have gone unnoticed by him.
Sure. I think that's very true. And that's would have he would have taken it as a snub, our foreign ministry saying that there was no such specific. And India has made that clear right from day one. You see, when Trump tweeted, quickly our foreign secretary came on TV to say that there was no intervention. We spoke directly, and that's a stand we have been maintaining, notwithstanding all kind of baiting which Congress and others have been doing, saying India needs to clarify. But Trump has said 13 times, etc. I think we've been very, very consistent on that. Now, in terms of this particular advisory or anything more coming, I think what's happened, contrary to all the protestations, it's true that the American deep state is quite well alive and kicking. None of these things would have happened without their thing within the state. So there are anti-Indian forces within the American system, including in the diplomatic corps, who are needling in this, and they probably have seen a chance to go back to the, like what whom Abhijit calls a bad Bhangra dancer or a food bloggist, his kind of term as a ambassador. So that is there. And before you conclude, Advaita, one more trick question, slightly unrelated, but I would request you to ask Abhijit, is about this British plane, parked in Trivandrum. Why is that? Is it? We'd like to know that. And simultaneously, to say, Abhijit, if a plane parked there is an issue, I have seen in Jaipur airport after Vance left for a long time, and US, cargo plane was waiting there. So if that's an issue of having a foreign defense services plane parked in our land, what are your views? But that's a separate rejoinder question.
Okay, and I have some more fewer questions for Abhijit, so we'll move into that. If you all want to leave.
The last time you forgot the question. So let's answer questions one by one, please.
That's what I'm saying. We're going to move to that after this section.
So for number one, the plane is there because it is too wide to fit into an aircraft. The wings need to be removed and things before it's pushed into a bigger aircraft. Second, crews were unavailable. They're getting a Singaporean crew in right now to either fix the aircraft or dismantle it, because the crew was on the aircraft carrier. The spare crew would be on leave. Shore leave is sacrosanct. You can't get them back on duty, etc., etc. Then there's a question of flying. So for the last few days, they've been trying to get a repair crew to come and get it. They haven't been able to get it. The Singaporeans have finally agreed. So apparently the Singaporeans are arriving today or tomorrow. And they will either be able to rectify it or, disassemble the wings and get a large C-17 here to fly it out.
Okay.
So no conspiracy is there?
No conspiracy.
Okay, another one. Guys, please like, share, subscribe. Over 1,200 live with us. Abhijit, is it time to take sides after Hormuz?
Absolutely not. We have certain interests out here, which is that Iran never gets nuclear weapons. We have zero interest in seeing the regime changes out there. This regime is not bad for us, huh? So we absolutely should not be taking sides. We should just keep doing what Indians do, which is saying, giving platitudes to both sides.
But then when we have an Operation Sindoor, no one says anything for us either.
Tell me why do you assume we were looking for validation from anybody else?
I'm just saying, because that was pointed out over and over again and said that, Modi's diplomacy has failed, this, that, and the other.
Look, please don't rant. Nobody in government said this. This was ordinary people on Twitter. Twitter can say whatever, they don't count.
I'm talking about even the opposition was saying it, no?
So let them say it. Now, how does it matter?
It's a point to raise.
The government was very clear that the less attention that is paid to this, the better for us. Israel reaps big rewards, but they take big risks. We wanted this to be low risk. The more media attention you get, the more international pressure you face.
No, we got media attention. Let's not get that wrong. Internationally, we did get media attention, but we got negative media attention. There was a difference.
which is exactly why you don't want attention.
Yeah. AI and the public are getting mixed damage reports about sports though. Do you think US big bombs are effective?
Super effective. Please remember, even the worst report says it is very, very badly damaged. That facility is not going to be reoperationalized for any time soon. Even if they manage to go in there, there are going to be, first of all, they won't be allowed to, because now what we understand is Israel plans a mowing the grass operation, which is once you've made your lawn and everything, you just have to mow the grass once a week to see that the grass looks pretty. It's not a question of growing the grass now. Okay,
Okay.
so it is mowing the grass with the M, not with the GR. And what happens out there is, if they try to go in or whatever, you just bomb it again.
Mhm.
There has been very, very significant structural damage. The gray concrete should tell you the kind of damage that is there. The blue tinge to it says something much more scary, but we won't get into that.
Okay. And the thing I want to ask you is Trump said we've obliterated their nuclear installations.
Hmm.
Is it an obliteration or is it a downgrading?
I don't know. You tell me. We hit that mosque in the compound, the one with the three domes. Was that an obliteration or was that a damage?
Hmm.
See, these are technicalities. People are trying to split hairs. That function, neither Natanz nor Fordao nor Isfahan can get functional again. At what is right now, they absolutely cannot operate. It will require at least another 3 to 6 years of building to get them all operational. So was it obliterated? Was it damaged? Was it badly damaged? Was it catastrophically damaged? I don't know what these rating scales of obliteration versus damage are.
Okay. And what is the possibility of this expanding, of it including other players? Or do you think this is where the peak, we've reached the peak and now it's going to kind of de-escalate?
Who is standing with Iran? Not Russia, not China. Verbally, sure. Verbal doesn't count for anything. The Saudis, for example, are condemning Israel. They're issuing statements condemning Israel every day, but they're providing their own air bases and refuelers to refuel Israeli aircraft. They're providing the Israelis with what intelligence they need. They're providing the Israelis with airspace. They're even providing them with bases for them to land and take off and fuel. Right? So verbal means nothing. Who is standing with Iran? Iran has allies, so-called allies in Iraq. The current Iraqi government is their ally because it is Shia dominated. They have allies in Lebanon, Hezbollah. They have allies in Yemen, the Houthis. They have allies in the Gaza Strip, which is Hamas. Except the Houthis, who fired 1 or 2 missiles, tell me who is standing up for Iran. All their allies have been so badly damaged. They can't do anything. So where is the scope for expansion? So tomorrow, even if the Iranians fire missiles at the American base in Bahrain or Al Dhafra in the UAE, what's going to happen? First of all, is it even going to hit? Okay. If they do that, they know they're expanding the scope of the war, and once America gets into it. Now, if it just hits, they're not going to do much. But if it hits and kills, if it is a mass casualty event, then America gets into the war, and best of luck to you.
Okay, and the last question. Okay.
Already has casus belli, because one of the missiles that landed in Tel Aviv actually damaged the American embassy.
Okay, and last question. What does this portend for Sunni-Shia relations going forward?
Oh, I hope it continues to stew. Sunni Shia tension is very good for India. We need more of it, not less of it.
So you think
I hope Iran gets more radicalized, which they almost certainly will. They get more terroristic, which is not a good outcome. But when you don't have a conventional military, uh, or your conventional military sucks as bad as the Iranian military clearly does, at least when compared to Israel, what do? You resort to subconventional means, which is to say terrorism. So I expect a huge spike in terrorism. I suspect they will go in for chemical, biological weapons as well. Uh, will they be able to carry it out? Will they be able to carry out without consequence? I don't think so. But these are some of the things they'll do. And because of that, I don't see Shia Sunni tension coming down.
Okay. And lastly, now in the context of what's happened now, it makes a lot of sense, right? Why Trump went to the UAE, Qatar, and what was the third country? Saudi Arabia. No, he didn't go to. He did go to the kingdom, right? He did go to Saudi Arabia.
Of course, he
Yeah.
went to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
That
But
is where the
also,
deal was signed. That is where
yeah,
the decision was taken to bomb Iran.
exactly. Because and a lot of people at that time were saying that, oh, he never went to Israel. Things are getting cool with Israel. He's distancing himself from
So
Bibi.
look at that.
But
This
maybe,
is, people are saying, what he's saying again. Pados wali auntie saying it doesn't make a difference. We've seen with
okay,
Trump, he's completely unpredictable. Twitter is Pados wali auntie or uncle. It's that old
no,
uncle
I'm
sitting
not
there.
even talking about Twitter. Okay, let me clarify. Whenever I say what they're saying, I'm not talking about Twitter. I'm talking about media reports and
Okay, media
discussions.
reports,
And
we're talking about
primarily, okay, also a disclaimer, primarily, right now I'm watching Al Jazeera mostly.
I detest Al Jazeera. I refuse to watch it. I think it is the one media house you can legitimately bomb without violating the rules of war. The only good Al Jazeera correspondent is a dead Al Jazeera correspondent, 6 feet under or charred by napalm. Uh, 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 they have been caught several times and bombed several times by NATO countries for being in direct collusion, aiding and abetting terrorists. So I think all bombing, I do not think Iran TV should have been bombed. I thought that was a war crime. But if you bomb Al Jazeera, it will not be a war crime. It will be a very good, just, and beautiful thing. It should be done. I certainly encourage people to do it. Uh,
Okay,
but,
now. Yes.
but,
Okay, on that note,
but New York Times and Washington Post are not journalists, they're propagandists. So they can keep doing this. It doesn't count for much.
and of course, on a final note, the UN, of course, turns up as basically a non-entity in this whole
The
scenario,
UN
as
has
it
been
has
a non-entity for a long time.
for a long time. So I think it's just absurd that they even exist.
Yeah.
Maybe they should for UNESCO and things like that, but
Okay, I have
otherwise,
to
I
run. Tata.
think that is
Bye.
fine. But anybody, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, Sandip, for coming in. And please do like, share, subscribe, and we shall be back with you soon. Some of you were saying we should try and meet 3 times a week. I shall try, but I'm also trying to write right now, so that makes it a little difficult for me to be on Twitter and on social media and on StreamYard, etc., like I would otherwise. So I hope you understand. But we'll try. We'll try. We'll certainly try. Thank you, everybody. Bye for now. Have a great week.